Bitcoin will fall to 58,000 US dollars within the next 2 weeks, and a much better buying price than that within the next 2 months. That is what my expectation is, and in today's video I will be presenting my analysis that brings me to this conclusion. Hello and welcome back to Investment Vitals. Nothing contained in this video is financial advice. This is for our collective learning and entertainment purposes only. 2 days back, I made this video of why I expect Bitcoin price to fall to around 57 to 58,000 US dollars, and why I would start adding at that price. However, today's video I'll be giving the exact date, approximate date by when I expect this to happen, and a better buy price that I'm targeting it at, and the reason thereof. In this video, I had spoken that in every Bitcoin halving cycle, Bitcoin price has gone down and tested the 50 days moving average invariably. For those of you who do not know what a Bitcoin halving is, when Bitcoin network first started, a miner used to produce around 50 Bitcoin as a reward for its mining activity on every block. Now, each halving, which started from November 2012, the production of Bitcoin per block reduced by half, essentially implying that the total production of Bitcoin becomes half. Now, assuming that the demand for Bitcoin remains same, when the supply falls by half, that creates a big amount of supply crunch, which props up Bitcoin price. Now, this is a little bit of background. The previous halving, the first halving happened in November 2012, as you can see on this page here, and the next one was 2016, and the subsequent last one was in May of 2020. After every halving, we have seen significant increase in Bitcoin prices, that I'll show you in some time back. Now, before the context of the previous video, which I'll quickly run through in here, is that in historically speaking, before every halving, Bitcoin has gone down to test a price level based on a moving average. I'll show the price what I'm talking about here. The current halving date, which is expected on 20th of April 2024, is approximately 21 days away from today. It is 28 days away from today. This I have plotted in the Excel file here, which I showed in the last video. Currently we are 29 days away from the next expected halving. Prior to this, the last halving was on 20th of April 2020. Now, to show what I really imply in terms of a drop, the reason why I expect a drop in the next couple of days is this. As I discussed in the previous video, prior to every halving, in each of the previous halving cycle, Bitcoin has gone down to test its 50-day simple moving average. For example, at the time of the previous halving in May 11, 2020, prior to that, approximately 21 days prior to that, that is on 20th of April 2020, Bitcoin had gone to test this blue line. This blue line is the 50-day simple moving average, essentially the average of the price of Bitcoin at a closing basis in the previous 50 days. If somebody had bought Bitcoin at that price, he would have, and the next high after this was around 69,000 US dollars. I would not go and show this because I've shown in the previous video already. If you missed this previous video, I'll provide a link will appear on top of the screen right now, and I also place this link of the previous video in the comment section and also a description of the video. You can go and refer to that for convenience. However, if somebody had bought at this opportunity of retest of the 50 days moving average from the top, the person would have made to the extreme high a 1003% return, which is around 10 times return on his investment. Previous to the halving in 2020, the previous halving was on June 2016, 23rd of June 2016, which is on the screen in a couple of seconds. And in that instance also, as we saw, Bitcoin had come close to it once, but it had tested. There was a 1 week in which it tested the 50 days moving average the halving was on July, and it tested the 50 days moving average on 23rd of June 2016. If somebody had bought Bitcoin at the test of the 50 days moving average at the price of 50 days moving average, which was at that point of time at 544, the number are appearing here. At that point of time, the price was 544. The person would have made a return of 3,615%, which is 36 times return on Bitcoin. Previous to this, the first halving was in 2012, which was on It was on 28th of November 2012. Prior to this, 10 days prior to this, Bitcoin had tested its 50 days moving average again. So the point I'm trying to make here is, in every cycle, within a gap of around a month prior to the cycle, Bitcoin has always invariably gone ahead and tested a 50 days moving average. It was right in here at that point of time. If somebody had bought that price at a price of 11, which was the 50 days simple moving average at that point of time, the return would have been 10,573%, which is around 105 times. Now, this is historical data. Somebody had asked me on the previous video as for when do I expect this dip to happen, before or after halving. As I discussed in that video, I expect the fall to happen before the halving, because historically speaking, this retest of the 50-day simple moving average has always happened in the month preceding to Bitcoin halving. We are already in that month, we are 29 days away from the next expected halving, and therefore I expect it to happen before the halving. However, I want to come at a more precise date than just a full range of a month. Historically speaking, as we can see, the retest of 50 days moving average in 2012 happened 10 days prior to the halving. In the next cycle, it happened 16 days prior to the halving, and the last cycle that we saw in 2020, the testing happened, the retest of 50 days moving average happened 21 days prior to the halving. Now, as we can see, the testing of 50 days moving average has been becoming earlier in every cycle, from 10 to 16 to 21. There's a pattern in this. You can see the pattern in the first, between 2016 and 12, the testing happened 6 days earlier. In the next cycle, which was in 2020, the testing happened 5 days earlier than the preceding cycle. Based on this, I expect the testing this time to happen 4 days earlier to even the 2021, which is 10, 16, 21, and now I expect it to happen on 20. Based on this, I expect the testing to happen on 26th of March 2020, which will be a Tuesday. I expect between Tuesday and the days, a couple of days to left or right, Bitcoin to test the 50 days moving average. Now, what that price would be? Again, as I'll be talking sometime in a couple of minutes, I don't expect that to be the best price to buy Bitcoin at. I will rather go ahead and I'll show you what the 50 days moving average is, which I will be buying for sure. I have placed some big orders on leverage for buying at the 50 days moving average in the current cycle, and this price is expected to be at the 50 days moving average currently stands at around 57,000 US dollars. In fact, it has moved up a little bit from the time I made the previous video. It is currently standing at just a second please, it's taking a little longer. Yeah, it is now currently standing at 57,596, 57,996, as you can see here. By the time this test happens, this average would have moved a little higher, and I expect it to be at approximately in the next couple of days, it should be approximately 58 to 59,000 US dollars. Now that is now within reach. We can see there was a sharp fall, sharp decline, recovery, and then it has been declining since then again. Therefore, it is not unlikely, in fact it's very likely that we would actually be hitting the 50 days moving average in the next couple of days. However, this is definitely not the best price to buy Bitcoin as by historical standards. As we discussed some time back, this has the testing of 50 days moving average has always happened, but there's also another very important average indicator that we need to see, that is called the pi cycle top indicator. The definition of that, this indicator is available for free on TradingView. You can go here, you can go to the indicators and you can type pi cycle top, and you'll get this indicator on your chart, pi cycle top indicator. The definition thereof, I'll just quickly run through. The pi cycle indicator is composed of 111 days moving average, which is the orange line in this chart here, and 2 times of the 350 days moving average, which is the green line in this chart here. Now, historically speaking, as I mentioned, Bitcoin has always gone and tested the 50 days simple moving average in every cycle prior to halving. However, it has, in every prior cycle, it has also gone ahead and tested this orange line within a month before or after the halving. And I will quickly show it on chart before I move to the calculations that I want to put forward in today's video. As we can see, in 2020 cycle, Bitcoin had gone ahead and tested this orange line on, I'll first tell you the date based on the Excel file here. it had gone out to test the bicycle top on the same day of the halving itself, which was 11th of May 2020, which is on this chart coming up in a second. May of 2020. Here we can see on the date of halving, the bicycle top, which is the orange line here, the bicycle top bottom was at 8094, that is 8094 Bitcoin US dollars per Bitcoin. And on that very date of halving, the lowest price, as you can see here on LL, the lowest price was 8181, which implies that Bitcoin had gone a little bit below this orange line, and hence anybody who would have put a buy order at the bicycle bottom would have got the order executed. Now, going back in time further to the halving cycle in 2016, as I mentioned in the previous video, in 2016, 2016 is the only time in the Bitcoin halving history when price had tested the 50 days moving average and had gone below that buy price after halving. That's the only cycle, and therefore in that context, we actually go ahead and see that the buy cycle bottom was a better indicator for buying. At that point of time, it was not really the best indicator. As we can see in this chart again here, buying at 50 days moving average would have been more profitable than buying at the bicycle top bottom here. However, I'll come to why I want to discuss bicycle bottom today in today's video, but towards the end of this video. Now, again, as I was saying, within around a month of the halving, Bitcoin had gone and tested the bottom, the orange line in 2016 as well. I have plotted this on this chart here also. That is on 24 days after the halving, Bitcoin went ahead and tested the pi cycle bottom. The cycle prior to that, which was in 2012, the pi cycle bottom was tested 7 days prior to the cycle, which I'll show in the chart one more time for your consumption. In 2012, the pi cycle bottom was tested by Bitcoin price on, just a sec here while we arrive. Yes, a couple of days prior to, that is here at this point of time, it tested just after testing just before testing the 50 days moving average. It had tested the, in fact the same day it had tested the pi cycle bottom. Now, why am I talking about pi cycle bottom? While buying Bitcoin at the retest of the 50 days moving average in the month preceding to the Bitcoin is a very profitable strategy, because except in 2016, in all other cycles Bitcoin had never gone below that price ever. However, currently speaking, we can see that the 50 days moving average is at around $57,500 US dollars, but the pi cycle bottom is much lower at around $49,000 US dollars. I'll just run to that quickly. Which is coming up here. As we can see in this chart, as per the latest price values, and this would move. These are all moving averages, so they'll of course move a little bit. However, given the number of data points that go into making this graph, it will not move so much. Currently speaking, the pi cycle bottom is around 49,497. While I was making this chart calculations sometime back, it was at 49494. Amazing number. I like numbers that Reka. It was 49494, approximately 49,500. By the time this gets retested, which I expect to be tested after halving, it's very unlikely that this will get retested before halving. However, it should be around slightly around $50,000, give or take a few $100 here and there. Now, historically speaking, every single cycle this price has been tested before or after the halving. There is no reason for us to believe that it will not get tested again. Now, it seems very unlikely given the current price of 63,000, but it is, if you see it, Bitcoin has already fallen up by more than by almost 20% in the last couple of days, and therefore it is not very unlikely that this cycle this price might get tested. In fact, this price Bitcoin was at this price, and in fact lower than this price only a couple of days back. By 13th of May was the date on which this price was crossed. So if Bitcoin could have moved above this price in the last 1 month or so, of course it can fall by this price by this amount in the next 13 days. So it is not unlikely that this pi cycle bottom will get tested. And historically speaking, this has been a great time to buy Bitcoin. In the current cycle, specifically speaking, given the fact that the pi cycle bottom indicator is a good around 15% lesser than the 50 days moving average. Based on the context of history, this would appear to be the buying opportunity of a lifetime for Bitcoin in the current cycle. I would be placing, as I discussed in the previous video, I have already placed leveraged buying options, buying orders for Bitcoin at the 50 days moving average. But I would not be deploying my entire cash. I'll be deploying bulk. I'll be saving some of the cash to deploy at the bicycle bottom indicator price, which is at around 50 or thousand US dollars is what I'll bid at. I'll be keeping some cash aside for that drop to happen, which I believe will happen. So I think that would be the best buying opportunity for the current cycle, and based on the context of history, we might not get a better opportunity to buy for forever in going forward. I hope you find this video useful. Essentially speaking, just to summarize, I expect Bitcoin to test the 50 days moving average, which is I expect Bitcoin to fall to a price of around 58,000 US dollars in the next 4 to 5 days. My expectation, as I mentioned some time back, is that Bitcoin will test 58,000 US dollars on 26th of March 2024. It's a bold call. I'm saying the next 4 days, I expect Bitcoin to test 58,000 US dollars. And furthermore, within the next 2 months, in fact within almost the next 1 month or so, I would expect Bitcoin to rather go ahead and test around 50,000 US dollars also. I hope that would happen, because if that happens, that in my opinion would be the best buying opportunity for us forever. It will be the time when we can create generational wealth on Bitcoin, and that is the price I'll be deploying most of my cash, and at a very large leverage. Having said that, I do not recommend. Buying on leverage is very dangerous. People should not those who don't have experience in this should rather avoid it. And of course, none of this is financial advice. I hope you find this video useful. If you find the video useful, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends and family. And I'll see you again soon next time. See you. Bye bye.